Hello, everybody. My name is Avikal. Yes, and I will introduce the dimensions of being. Now, I've been doing this Zoom thing for a few weeks now, and so I'm starting getting kind of used to it. And yet, I mean, the first thing that immediately touches me is how we are all here together. We are sharing right now the same present, even though theoretically, chronologically, I am your future because I live in Australia and many of you are my past. So what immediately this brings up for me is the lie of time, chronological time, and how we adjust our lives to this false concept. The time is something objective, the time is something real. Because what we are doing right now shows very clearly that even though we are, for some of you, in completely opposite parts of these planets, we are here and we are sharing exactly the same present. So, what I want to do today in this meeting, which is going to be a first, because there is going to be most probably another one. In this first meeting, my invitation is that you take whatever I will be sharing with you, suspending your judgment, suspending your comparison. For a moment, detaching yourself from what you know and what has been your experience up to this moment, which has its own story, its own values, and its own beauty, but also that you listen to what I will share with you without thinking about it, without processing it, just as an opportunity to ask questions. I'm not very good at giving answers, and in fact, I will not give answers. What I'm good at is asking questions and looking at what is this thing that we take for granted very often and that we call reality. So the dimensions of being is an invitation to a journey, is an invitation to look into corners of our personalities, of our beliefs, of our survival structures, and start asking, well, what do I really know about this? What is my direct, unique, personal experience? So that we can find our own answers. You can find your own answers. So my job here is going to be basically just to invite you to these questions. And I'm going to do it by focusing on particular aspects of our day-to-day life, mostly. I want to thank Sharabo because he has been incredibly patient and and loving and passionate in organizing this. And I want to thank you guys for coming and being here with me right now. And I'm also happy to see that you seem all to be healthy. And that's very important because our life is a gift. And this gift is sacred and precious. And we have the responsibility to support ourselves, to protect our life in any way it feels appropriate for each one of us, so that we can really explore and perhaps find our own understanding of some fundamental questions. Who am I? What am I doing here? What is the gift that I bring to this planet? Am I accidental, or actually existence wants exactly you, me, all of us in this moment on this planet as an embodiment of consciousness? These are big questions, but very often the answers are very simple because they are your answer, my answer, our answers. They are very personal. So the question becomes a personal question. So I want to start, before introducing the dimensions of being, I would like to start with a short guided meditation. So I want to ask you to close your eyes and sit in a comfortable position. You don't make yourself tense. Just sit comfortable. If you are on a cushion, sit on your cushion. If you are on a chair, relax on your chair. And we just close our eyes. And meditation is about resting in ourselves. It's about allowing whatever is here to just be here. So we can sense our bodies. We can feel our feelings. We can notice that perhaps there are thoughts. So allow yourself to be here without changing anything, without trying to make your breath going in a way or another, without correcting your posture. You let go of any effort. You let go of any goal and simply notice. Notice the breath that is going out, the sounds around yourself. The way your body is sitting. And perhaps as you let everything be exactly as it is, you might notice that there is an unfoldment, a flow of events, of objects. Maybe they are physical objects, material objects, like what am I sitting on, or the clothes that I'm wearing. Or they might be non-material objects, like a thought or a feeling. And it's easy to notice that there is a constant change, a constant movement. Resting means that I simply am aware of this movement and I don't do anything to change it. I don't do anything to control it. I don't do anything to manipulate it. I simply rest in the awareness of what is. And as I do that, as we do that, and we become more and more present with our awareness, you might start feeling also that you are not alone in this moment. Even though we are distant physically, we are all sharing this present moment. And we are all sharing the consciousness of this present moment. We are all here, and we have come here with the intention of being present. So presence is the common denominator in this moment, is the basic ground that we share. We are present here, and there is one presence, one consciousness, embodied in so many unique forms. One presence, many forms. One consciousness, embodied in all these unique people, humans. And sensing your legs and your arms, allow your eyes to open and give yourself a stretch So, dimensions of being. One of the, perhaps the most common difficulty that spiritual seekers or seekers in general encounter in their journey is, how can I transform into day-to-day life my understandings, my states of consciousness? How can I actually embody what I feel and see and understand about myself and reality? The more I work with people, the more I notice that many people say, yes, I meditate and I go very high, or when I'm in love, I touch places of ecstasy and beauty and relaxation, or when I am with the master, everything becomes clear and obvious. And then I go back to my day-to-day life and everything seems to collapse. I go back to habits, uh, problems, attachment to suffering, difficulties, and so on and so forth. Now, this is something that first of all, I recognized in myself, but also something that I've heard from thousands of people. And it doesn't matter if it was people that were at the beginning of the journey or people that had sometime 20 or 30 years of meditation on their shoulders. There is a gap. There is a gap between how we live our life day to day and our potential as human beings. And that gap is something that, even when we recognize it, is very painful. Creates a lot of fragmentation inside, a sense of uncertainty, a sense of at times of intense despair. Who am I really? Am I really that beautiful, brilliant, intelligent human being that I can see and recognize in moments where my awareness is open and my heart is available? Or I am just that small shell personality, that mask, that habit of hiding myself and to survive? And this question, let's do something. If this question makes sense for you, can you please do like this so that I know that you are here with me and it makes sense what I'm saying? Okay, let me see also one moment to the others. Okay, just if you can, okay, personality and beyond personality. Okay, good, thank you. So this gap, this distance between what we experience as a personality and what we experience when we are beyond the limitations of our personality, this is a common theme. So the dimensions of being is the result of well, I can say thousands of years of search, because it is the combination of very ancient traditions, and particularly Sufi and Tibetans, together with modern psychology like Freud, bioenergetics, the theory of development of children, and so on. And in the last 40 years, uh, maybe 40, 50 years, many teachers and masters and seekers in the world have starting seeing something really miraculous and beautiful, which is a coming together, a merging of the understanding and the intelligence of the East with the intelligence and understanding of the West. You know? So many masters have started really putting together different techniques, different understanding, different points of view, different approaches, and creating maps of our understanding that can be used in these modern times. So if you study or look at the traditional forms of spirituality, in the traditional form of spirituality, basically the spiritual seeker was someone that was leaving the world, was someone that was renouncing the world. Not only that, but was someone that was condemning very strongly everything that was happening in the world, and particularly all the forms of attachment to material richness and goods and things like that, success and money and power and so on, and was dedicating life to isolation. This is something that actually we are coming to know in these days. But something has changed drastically in the last few decades, because we are recognizing, and teachers and masters have recognized, that this was just another form of separation, was another form of separating spirit from matter. Matter is bad, spirit is good. And for other people, spirit was good and matter was bad. And then finally, masters and teachers started approaching this question, this fundamental question of separation, from absolute inclusivity. Basically by saying, wait a minute, if spirit is all there is, and you can call it spirit, you can call it God, you can call it the absolute, you can call it primary awareness, you can call it any way it feels right for you. But if spirit is all there is, how can I divide spirit in something acceptable and in something not acceptable, in something good and in something bad, in something luminous and in something dark? So when I, for the first time, I approached this work, the thing that hit me straight in my heart was that for the first time, after apart from Osho, for the first time I heard someone speaking about personality not as an enemy, not as something to destroy, not as something to throw away, but as an opportunity, as a door into higher states of consciousness or different ways of experiencing my being. And it really touched my heart, because I felt that so much of my own life as a seeker and the life of most of the seekers that I have known was about pushing away a big part of themselves, a big part that we are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. That part that, for example, help us navigate into day-to-day life. That part that relates to people. That part that goes to work. That part that goes shopping and prepares food. That part that we call personality. So the first thing that I want to invite you to consider as a possibility is, what about if we stop fighting against ourselves? What about if we stop judging parts of ourselves as wrong, as non-spiritual, as conditioned, as something that we need to correct or condemn? And instead of doing that, we start looking at everything that we are, also in the personality, as a door into being. So let me give an example. In the Sufi tradition that is called the Lataif, there is an understanding that being manifests through specific qualities. And the main qualities that being manifest through are will, strength, power, compassion, and joy. And this map, the Lataif, says, as many other maps say, that when we arrive on this planet, we are already completely gifted. So we have everything that we need. So these qualities are in each one of us. So we arrive here with the full package. We arrive with compassion, we arrive with loving kindness, we arrive with intelligence, with beauty, with will, with power, with silence. We arrive with everything. These are universal qualities. They don't belong to anybody. And yet, little by little, because of our conditioning, we separate from these qualities. And we start creating what in our system, personality, is called an imitation of being. We start creating like a surrogate. And again, let me give a practical example. Strengths. Strength is the capacity to be yourself. Strength is I can. I have the capacity to be myself every moment in every kind of resource. Now, when I separate from my being, so when I disconnect from my true strengths, I find myself locked into this imitation, this distortion that we know as anger. So if you experience directly strengths, you will notice that strengths has some energetic characteristics which are very similar to anger. Is fiery, is willful, it's right, is righteous. So in day-to-day life, everybody experiences strength, but to experience it in a distorted form, which is anger. Now, this would not be a problem if we would not have judgments about anger. But what we have learned and what we are conditioned to do is to shut down our anger, push away our anger, consider that anger is something wrong, So we do, I don't want to know about this. But by doing that, we are actually shutting off the door that can allow us to experience strength. So if I let myself feel my anger as an energetic phenomenon, what happens usually is that I move to a deeper level, a deeper layer of my life, which has to do with aggressiveness. Now, aggressiveness is not bad, it's a resource. It's a resource that we have inherited from our animal part. So aggression is the capacity to protect your life. It's the capacity to protect the life of the people that you love. It's the capacity to find food. It's the capacity to run away when you need to run away. Aggression is pure fire. There is no morality in aggressiveness. And there is no violence. Violence is part of anger. So then, if I'm willing to accept and recognize my anger, I can come to a much deeper source of energy, which is my animal heritage, which is aggressiveness. And when I'm willing to stay there and recognize that without pushing it away, I can move to a much, much, much deeper layer, which has to do with strength. Strength is a quality of being. I need strength to be who I am. I need the capacity to embody my potential if I want to know who I am. I need the courage to separate from what does not support my humanness. So strength is a fundamental quality that we can find and recognize by going through different layers. And the most known is what we know in personality as anger. But let me give you another example. Greed. Now, I know that they tell us that greed is bad. But just look inside for a moment, and just see, am I greedy about something in my life? Now, if we are just a little bit honest, we can simply recognize that everybody has greed for something. Some people are greedy for sex. Some people are greedy for success. Some people are greedy for money. Some people are greedy for shoes. Some people are greedy for enlightenment. Greed is something that exists in the personality. And usually what we do is that we hide it or we push it away. And we pretend that no, that it's not there, or we do the opposite. We absolutely idealize it. It's good to be greedy, like Wall Street American movies, a few years ago. Greed is perfect. Yeah? Whatever is our attitude towards greed, what we don't do is that to go into it, to really look, how come I'm greedy? What is this greed? And if we explore, we can find out something very empowering. Usually we are greedy for things, for objects. It's about having something. It's about becoming something. But if we really look into it, greed has a much deeper source. And the source is the desire, the deep longing to be yourself. It's about being, it's not about having, it's not about becoming. Because we don't give ourselves support enough and permission enough to be authentically who we are, then we compensate by making ourselves, satisfied with external things, or by becoming somebody, becoming important, becoming successful. So this approach, one of the most fundamental aspects of this approach is really to stop dividing ourselves, is to stop condemning and splitting ourselves, and start looking at each one of us as a totality, as a unity that includes everything. I am all that I am. Being is all that is. Like you did before in the meditation, the moment that we relax, the moment that we stop efforting, the moment that we stop trying to change things, you might have noticed that in those moments, you are what you are. There is no question of being different. There is no question of this breath should be in this way or that way. There is no question of condemnation. You simply are. And that's the most fundamental truth. I am. Beyond any definition, beyond any splitting, beyond any separation. So this specific approach, and in particular the Lataif map, together with the understanding of the development of childhood and also Freudian psychology, is a map that creates a bridge between what happens to us when we grow up in the first few years of life. How do we lose the connection with our being, and how we create a personality that is an imitation of our being, some sort of fake coffee. Yeah. I'm an Italian, so I'm a coffee addict. Yes. And a bridge that can take me to, okay, how can I reconnect? How can I create a link between my personality, which is a survival mechanism, a survival structure, and my being, which is infinitely bigger, vaster, and more mysterious than day-to-day life. Now, this is also addresses another question, and not more than a question, probably is a kind of uneasiness that we often feel. Am I really here just to survive? I don't know if you ask yourself this question immediately and directly and consciously, but even if you don't, somewhere, probably in your heart, you have felt that there is more to life than pure survival. So the bridge is also about a bridge between surviving and living. Because surviving is just a little shadow of our possibilities. We are here to live completely, fully, immensely. Surviving, no, my cat probably can survive better than me because it doesn't ask strange questions. So as long as we survive only, or fundamentally, we are not even touching our potential. We are just starting our journey as human beings. There is a fundamental obstacle in this journey from surviving to living. And that obstacle is actually a very precise presence in ourselves, which we can easily detect day after day, because it manifests as a compulsive activity of inner dialogue, where we are divided in two parts. Now, one part wants to go one way, one part wants to go another way. One part that says this is right, another part that says, no, I want to go in that direction. And this is very often, people come to session and says, one part is this, one part is that. And wait a minute, we are not a cake. We are not made of parts. We are a unity. But so what is this story of this inner dialogue, which most often is an inner conflict? Well, that inner conflict points to a specific part of our personality, which has different names, but I use the name inner judge. Freud talks about it as superego. Other inner critic, the Zen master call it the barking dog. Yeah, different images, but the same basic understanding is a psychosomatic presence of control. And that control is about the control of our life force. Is about continuously trying to direct our life force in the direction that is acceptable, that is considered better, that can make me more valuable, more successful, more acceptable to other people. So that's I say that is the strongest obstacle, because it is completely working on an unconscious and subconscious level. And mostly it works through self-judgment, comparison, guilt, shame, belittlement, making ourselves wrong, and also about the others, same thing with others. So every time that we judge ourselves, every time that we compare ourselves, every time that we doubt ourselves, we are in the grasp of this control system. And that control system is what does not want at any cost that we grow up, that we become fully human, absolutely unique. So there is an inner judge, which is personal, internal. Then there is a society inner judge with specific prejudices, specific beliefs and values. There is a collective unconscious which manifests this inner judge. Okay. I would like at this point to see if there is anyone who has questions.
Can you hear me, Abby?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing first. It's like a very good reminder to connect myself with it. For me, like, I don't even know if it's a question, it's more of a sharing. Like, in my way of upbringing, like I recognize my tendency to like shut down, to repress the negative feelings, you know, like anger or like exploding. And I felt myself like in a place where, like after retreats and with guidance from you and something, that I just needed to just let it like really express itself. But then there's the thing, like I feel like in day-to-day life, like here, sometimes I find myself like constantly catharting, like doing something to just like move this. And I don't see, like, at least it's not very conscious for me, it's not very clear, like how to integrate and not just keep catharting. Like anger comes and okay, I can hold space for it, but like I need to go to my room and express and burst, and I don't even know if it makes sense, but what came up.
It does. It does. Okay, so first of all, the trap. The trap is negative feelings. The moment that you use that word negative, you already have created a trap for yourself. Because if you look at a very young child, yeah, a very young child that does not have this concept of anger being a negative feeling is just that explosion of pure energy. Yeah? And then it's completely, back to whatever it is back, Maybe he starts crying, or maybe he's there completely like, in this open space of getting energy because he expressed a lot. But there isn't that conceptual structure that creates already a blocking of that energy. So if you continues to block that energy and to accept internally the belief that that anger is a negative feeling, well, then probably you're going to have to catart a lot. Because it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of energy that is compressed. And at some point, the energy can be compressed up to a certain level at a certain point, but then needs to be expressed. So catharsis is good to open repressed energy, but it's not a final solution. The solution is, okay, for example, how come I'm angry in this moment? Right in this moment, if I take away the idea that there is something negative about it, and I simply notice that there is this incredible amount of energy, what is this about? Like, for example, anger very often has a lot to do with the fact that we are not expressing our authenticity in that moment.
Yeah.
So the question is not, the question is, how can I be authentic in this moment? What happens if I take a risk and in this moment I am exactly what I am? And I use this not to catart, not to push against anything, but to really as a fire that allows me to be strong and make a statement about, okay, in this moment I am right this. And there is also creativity involved in this. Creativity is like an understratum often under anger. No, and if you allow, for example, make an experiment. Next time that you are angry, instead of catart, go and create something. Start painting.
Like a blood murder, a murder scene.
Sure.
Just kidding. Yeah.
But you can use yourself as your body as a brush. Put yourself full of color and create a painting. Yeah. So allow creativity to manifest. So we use anger consciously as a door into being into what is underneath, which is our deeper layer of true nature. And this is experiential, of course. So it's not just an idea. You can't just say, okay, now I think not to be angry and it doesn't work. You need to take a jump and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay?
My question is, like a person does some act on me or a person. So in that case, what we do, we suddenly judge ourselves. Okay, we say like, oh, why this guy did this particular act on me, and your one type of energy will start reacting. Then afterwards, you jump into some kind of a conclusion. Then at that point, one kind of an energy will jump in, and at that time, after some time, you say like, why I am doing all this stuff, right? Let's leave all these things. And at that time, you will jump into another kind of energy, and there is like lot of various forms of energies which float around, like
Wait,
whatever you were saying.
wait. Go slowly, because otherwise I can't really understand you. Slow down a little bit.
Okay, so uh, various types of energies float on a particular act. So
Yes.
how to magnify and how to go deeper into that? Let's say a person does some act on us, we judge, we say like leave about it, then we jump into some conclusions. So
Yeah.
multiple energies flows.
Yes.
How
Yes.
to stick to a particular energy and how to identify which energy we need to deepen.
Wait a second. So let's make it simple. So somebody is judging you. That's what you're saying.
I am judging somebody,
You're
and
judging. Okay.
after some time, I'll say like, why I am judging? Just leave it. And
Okay.
after some time, I will say, okay, why I need to judge? Why I need to waste time? And I will come into some conclusion. I will come into some kind of a passion. Energy flows various forms here.
Sure. You can. Well, the most easiest thing is why you need to judge other people. Stop judging other people, because when you judge other people, basically you're throwing away energy for nothing, because your judgment is not the truth. Your judgment is simply a particular interpretation. I'm not saying that the interpretation is wrong. I'm saying that is your relative truth, is a particular interpretation. So judgment is absolutely useless in most cases. Judgment can only be useful when we use it scientifically, is a tool in science. But as long as we deal with other people, I can judge others, but I don't know if my judgment responds to reality, to what is real and true for that person or not. What I know for sure is that it reflects my own interpretation. So when I judge others, the best question is what this has to do with me. So it's about taking the judgment and turn it towards yourself and look, why in this moment I have the need to judge this person? What does he show in myself? Because very often when we judge, there is, especially when the judgment is very charged energetically, there is a projection happening. So that means that I'm basically throwing out something that belongs to me and putting it on the other person. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy, and it creates a lot of conflict. Like, as you don't like to be judged, you can assume with quite a lot of certainty that other people don't like to be judged. So there is a responsibility that you take to really stop putting out that energy and looking at what it has to do with you. And that can resolve the question of reactivity, because it's true. When we judge others, then we put in motion a whole reactivity scenario, where there is a reaction and then another judgment and then more reactivity and so on. And this is actually painful. So unless you are a masochist and you like to suffer, I would suggest that you retake responsibility for the judgments that you throw out.
Okay.
Okay.
So how can I use that judgment energy to go deeper?
Well, as I said, you ask yourself, you take that energy and instead of going out, you turn it towards yourself and you ask yourself, okay, what it has to do with me in this moment, this judgment that I have about that person. And you might start inquiring, which is inquiry is our main tool of understanding. What is the meaning? What is the sense of judging other people in this moment? What it has to do with me? Okay? And see what happens.
Yeah, thanks.
About spiritual and day-to-day life. The spiritual pattern. In the morning, I'm doing my dynamic meditation in the forest, and then I am going home. So feeling consciousness, feeling my own energy, feeling myself. Then I come to the shop, buying something, and by the moment I'm coming out of the shop, I understand that I lost myself completely in all these shells.
Yes.
It happens in different things, but in shopping, it's the most obvious for me, the most clear things. It's so simple just to come to the shop, to take something and to pay for this. But from time to time, I'm losing it. And I understand that I'm condemning both myself and this activity like shopping, because I cannot keep myself in it. I'm losing myself in it. It's yes. So it's my question is already clear, or should I continue?
No, it's clear. Well, I think it's clear. But then if it's not clear enough, you can add whatever it feels for you to add.
Okay.
So first of all, I want to tell you something that I heard Osho saying many times. So he said, okay, first of all, you need to recognize when you are present.
Когда ты присутствуешь.
Are you Russian?
Русский? Yes, I'm Russian.
Very good. Okay, so
I'm translating into my wife. She is right behind.
I know. I can hear that. Okay. So first of all, you need to recognize when you are present. Okay. How does it feel? How you recognize it? What are the feelings? What are the sensations? And so on. Yeah. Second, you can notice that in some moments you get lost, right? Okay. Now, the moment that you notice that you were lost, you are present again. Okay? Because otherwise you would not be able to recognize that you were lost. Okay? So the most important part is that you don't feel guilty about being lost. Because being lost is also part of experiencing. It's like breathing in and breathing out. Sometimes we are completely identified with an external object, for example, shopping. And then suddenly we come back and say, oh, I was completely lost. But actually you were not lost. You were simply identified with an external object, maybe a pair of shoes, maybe a new perfume, maybe a book, maybe, I don't know, a television. And there is nothing wrong in it. You simply recognize it that your attention was out there instead of in here. And that's what attention does. Attention has the capacity to attach, or if you want, to identify with any aspect of reality. So can be in the different objects and can be in here, in the subject, in the one who is experiencing. Now, guilt does not help. You can throw it out completely in the garbage bin, and instead of feeling guilty, just notice this movement. Notice how you move out from the subject, away from the subject. Your attention, like now, goes in my glass. So my attention is right here. And now my attention is back in myself. And what we do is that we start practicing this movement consciously. So instead of feeling guilty, next time you go there and say, oh, a beautiful pair of shoes. Now I'm going to identify completely with that pair of shoes. And I'm going to enjoy being completely that pair of shoes. And then I come back to myself. And then we do this movement, and consciously we practice. And the more we do it, the more the distance, the apparent separation, the gap becomes smaller and smaller. And at some point, we learn that we can be both here in the subject and in the object at the same time. Okay, so, and that's the moment when separation completely dissolves for a moment. But this is a practice. But I want to underline 500 times, fuck guilt. Don't waste 1 second, 1 split second with that. Because what guilt does is that takes your intelligence and puts it in a very tight box. Forget it. Just practice. In and out, in and out, in and out, until in and out disappear completely. And then you are both. Okay, did I get your question?
Great, exactly what I needed.
Thank you, my friend.
Hi, Avikal. This is Bhavna.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Where are you?
I'm sorry?
Where are you?
I am in US, in Minneapolis.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm calling from. And it's been just a fantastic, fantastic session. I didn't know literally 10 minutes, 15 minutes before that I'd be joining, but as soon as I read what you're going to be talking about, I was like, gosh, that's exactly what I need right now.
Good.
So having said that, I'm kind of struggling as to what my question is. Maybe I'll just share with you what's happening in me. I've been lately kind of noticing, like this, become quite aware of what you're calling the inner judge or the inner critic. And I've been kind of noticing that I kind of do it in a very, I started to notice like subtle ways I'm doing it, like I may not express it outside, like if I'm rejecting somebody or their ideas, or putting on a mask if liking somebody when I'm really not quite comfortable with them. So I'm noticing those kinds of things, and I've been noting them down. And so I'm comfortable with the process of knowing that what's happening in me. But then there's this part of me which wants to just get rid of it, kind of clear myself of all of this. It's this, no, I know. It's, because just before I called you, I was listening to Osho, and he was saying, stop trying to improve yourself.
Yes.
Like, that's exactly the message for me. So I don't know. Okay, so if I don't try to improve myself, I want to be accepting. And
okay.
what do I do?
Let me give you a hint. Okay.
Okay.
The Zen masters have a beautiful name for the inner judge. You know, they call it the barking dog.
Yeah.
And they say the barking dog is right there, no, next to your legs, and he's barking, and he's barking, and you are telling the dog, stop barking, stop barking, stop barking. So your energy is completely taken by the dog. And in relation to this, at some point I heard Osho saying, wait a minute, but barking is the nature of the dog.
Yeah.
So you can't tell your dog not to bark. In the same way, you cannot tell your superego to stop judging, because that's his job.
Mm-hmm.
The structure of the inner judge is there with one specific goal, which is to make you survive. And it deals with you like your parents used to deal with you. They're telling you what is right and what is wrong, what to do and not to do, what to accept and what to reject. Yeah. So the question of the inner judge is about how to survive. Yeah.
Okay.
So you cannot push your judge away, because you know your judge is useful. It has a job to do. It is about surviving. Yeah? The question is, how can you create a distance from that survival mechanism, and allow yourself to let the dog bark, but no, leave it there, far away. You don't need to change it. In fact, the barking dog is very useful to navigate in day-to-day life, because it has to do with survival. Now, of course, when you go to bed with your beloved, I hope you don't go there just to survive, you know. Okay, you go there because you want to enjoy, you want to express yourself, you want to have fun, you want to give, you want to receive, you want to experience. And that's what the superego does not want. The superego is about control, it's about survival, it's about not too much or too much. You know, it's really about boundaries, and being is about beyond boundaries. So the question is rather to understand how the mechanism of control and survival works for you. How can you recognize, okay, in this moment, I'm open, free, available, intelligent, and in this moment, I'm locking myself within constriction and boundaries. And you learn, again, by practicing, by noticing, okay, in this moment, I'm judging myself that I'm not intelligent enough. The moment that I tell myself that I'm not intelligent enough, I become stupid, because I have to prove to my judge that he's right.
Yeah.
You know, and because the judge is basically our parents, internalized, it has a lot to do with our original relationship with our parents. That's why it's so difficult to get rid of the inner judge. Get rid is the wrong word, to transform the relationship with the inner judge, because there is also love involved.
Yeah.
You know, because our parents were not just a pain in the ass. They were also beautiful human beings. And so if we don't recognize also the beauty in that structure, we tend to push it away. Instead, what we want to do is to integrate it, to use it when we need it. When I need a guardian, I whistle, my dog comes, and I say, okay, now you can bark. When I don't need a guardian, you know, because I am in a moment of being myself, and I don't need defenses, for example, I don't need protection, then the dog is there. You know, you can feel that it's there, you can hear that it's barking, but it's very far away. It doesn't bug you, it doesn't bother you. You don't buy into it. And this is practice.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is that we're going to do a second meeting, which is going to be all of it on the judge.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. This is wonderful, by the way. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, darling.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. Hello.
Yes. Nice to be in touch with you, and also nice to hear your introduction, and which really made me contemplate and hear also questions of others, which also resonated and made me somewhat feel better that I'm not the only person struggling with this. So you somewhat already gave an answer to my question, but I could still share some of my concerns that are related to my life, to my daily life, when I can see that I have this very sneaky, tricky inner judge that is bugging me all the time about achievement, about being productive, about like in every aspect of my life, whether it's work or spirituality or exercise, like I have to do more, how much have I done to be productive today? And I realize it's just sucking so much energy out of me, and I see it all the time, and it's there, and I know that it doesn't serve me, because I'm much better when I'm just relaxed and go with the flow. I'm actually more productive, and I can do more by pushing myself less. And yet at the same time, I'm quite helpless, and it's there anyway, and I keep catching myself trapped in this constant like fight to achieve more when I don't really need to fight. Yes. So the question is, how can I go deeper in this inner judge and find value in it, like you described initially?
Well, the short answer is stop fighting. The very short answer is don't create a separation between what you consider in yourself right and what you consider in yourself wrong. You know, to want to achieve is not something wrong. It's okay to have that desire. Okay, I want something, or I want to be in a certain way. Yeah, that's not a problem. The problem is if you fight against it. If you decide that that thing internally is antagonistic to those moments where you flow, because not all the time is possible to flow. You know, life includes everything that we are. Therefore, in some moments, you know, you are a swimmer, right? So sometimes the ocean is calm. Yeah. Sometimes the ocean is not calm. Now, if you love the ocean, you don't say, okay, I'm going to go in the ocean only when it's calm. And I'm not going to go when there are waves, because waves are beautiful. There is a lot of energy. There is a lot of unpredictability. There is a lot of movement. You know? There is a lot of possibility. For example, if you are a body surfer, you know, long wave. So why then with ourselves we do the opposite? I only want to be myself when I am in the flow, but when I'm kind of all over the place and kind of confused, or maybe focused and completely stubborn that I want to reach there, what's wrong with that?
I just burn myself out so much when I'm in this place.
Okay, so then there is nothing wrong with that. What you need to look at is how you experience that and how you get attached to that or overwhelmed by that. See, but the experience in itself is not good or bad. It's simply another way of functioning. Yeah? Now, of course, if you let the experience become more powerful than you. Basically, if the object is the one that takes completely your attention and your life force, then of course this is a problem, because you will suffer. Otherwise, there is simply a particular reality that you can include, and you can say, okay, I am this and I am that too, and allow yourself to experience the other side without fighting with it. Now, this is easy to say, of course, and it's not so easy to practice, and I am aware of that. But also, it is a practice. It is a practice in the sense of recognizing, for example, how you move from what you call the flow, which is a state where there is no effort, to a state where there is effort. So the question is, how come in this situation I start efforting? What would happen if I would go through the same experience without efforting? How can I allow myself to flow into also in situations where the mind says you need to effort? So from the point of view of the dimension of being, effort has to do with will, and specifically lack of connection with the will, which is different, is a state of being, is what we call the white essence, and it has to do with being present with what is, having the capacity to focus your intention to yourself and what is. It has also a lot to do with surrender. Surrender to what is, which means I don't fight. Now, of course, this is a practice, and you need to ask yourself, how come in this moment I start efforting? I start becoming hard and rigid. And notice what happens, because there is a relationship between the flow and the other state. It's always you. It's always you. In a certain dimension, in another dimension. So how do you move from one to the other? So of course, one of the things is, for example, when you want to reach a goal, one of the basic traps is that you attach yourself to that goal. Right? The question is not the goal, the question is attachment. Is my attention is on the goal or in the attachment? So if you want to really solve the question, you need to look at how you attach to something. Yeah? Now, Buddha, in that sense, was very specific in the way he was using words. He never spoke about attachment. He always spoke about the movement of attachment, which means that every time that I attach is because I move away from myself. And I attach to an external object, for example, a goal. When you flow, you are not attached to an external object. You are just flowing. So start looking at how you attach. And you will find that, in some situations, it's just a compulsive habit. In other situations, it can be very useful. In other situations, it doesn't happen. Now, this we could open a lot. We can go into so many. For example, let's say that you want to reach that goal, not because of a particular goal, but because you want to prove that you are something. Okay? Now, the focus has nothing to do with the goal. The focus is that I want to be somebody. I want to have a particular self-image. I want to be seen in a particular way. For example, successful, for example, special, and all this. So if my attention is on the problematics with the goal, I'm missing the point. Because the point is, why do I need to prove that I'm special? And actually the answer is very simple. Because I forgot that I am unique. When I flow, I'm unique. I'm incomparable. There is no worry about proving to myself or to other people that I am special. I know I'm unique, and therefore I'm incomparable. When I want to be special, then I must create hierarchy, where there is something more special than me and something less special than me. And that creates a conflict inside, and the tension and stress and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Wow, you really brought me to the key point of it.
Yeah. So this we will look definitely more in specifically talking about when we work with the judge. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You
Because
too. Huh?
You're starting your day.
Yes.
What happens if I am at the receiving side of anger? How do I protect myself and at the same time stay vulnerable and open?
Sorry, I'm not sure I got the answer. I got the question.
So if I receive the anger from the outside, from people that are very close to me, so
okay.
they are angry with me, and it's a lot of energy, and it becomes so much destructive energy, and it can become violent also.
Okay.
What do I do? How do I stay open and then in the same time somehow protect myself from this energy?
I don't have a solution. I don't have, because the question is, okay, if a person is angry with you, that has to do with them. Yeah. It is their anger and it has to do with them. You know, the way you protect yourself depends on the situation, you know, depends on how you relate to this person. There isn't an answer that can make sense in general, you know. I mean, obviously, I understand that there is a need to protect yourself. For example, one of the things that you can develop or learn is to actually put a very strong boundary towards the anger of the other person. And the boundary can actually be a real capacity to say, look, when you are like this, don't come close to me. Don't come and talk to me. You know, I cannot take this. You know, I don't know exactly, because we will have to see to a very specific moment to moment, you know, questions. But healthy boundaries, the capacity to say no, for example, it's a very important. If we cannot say no, when there is a strong energy that is trying to invade us, it's very difficult to protect ourselves. So to be willing to say, no, this is the boundary, you cannot come over this boundary, because this is my space, my territory, and I need to feel safe. It might work, it might not work, depends on the other person. If it doesn't work, you might have to go. But one fundamental thing is that you don't accept, under any circumstances, any form of violence against yourself. This is absolutely no, you know. Nobody has the right to be violent with you or me or anybody else. That's not acceptable. Your life, our life is too precious to allow anybody to be, you know, aggressive and violent with us, you know. And that's our responsibility. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.